a rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but that beauty.
Graduation parties and things. I'm gonna be bouncing around on Sunday. I got all these kids invited me to these
graduations.
Yeah, I'm going to try to just make appearances at least. I must say I've never heard this one. I've heard that one.
Oh, yeah.
Never that one.
Oh, really?
No, I've never heard that. But we'll make it work.
Yeah, those are just different things I found.
Huh?
I just found them.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I let Malachi cut my hair for the first time.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
First time, huh?
You know, as soon as I got my barber license, I ain't let nobody cut my hair.
Yeah.
I let him cut my hair. Did a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
How's he doing? I talked to him a couple of weeks ago. I think it might have been a couple
yeah,
weeks
he told me. Yeah. I want to thank all y'all who's watching, who is joining in with us. I want to thank all of y'all. Hopefully this topic resonates something in y'all to understanding this topic. Yeah, Tamika Lynn, we are the world. I think we forget that. What's up, my brother from the side? What's going on, brother? He said, my brother died, or my brother's keeper died in New Jack City, huh? Yes, sir. My brother and sister's keeper, Tamika. If y'all can hear us, bring the speak. I want to make sure everybody can hear us.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Can y'all hear us okay? Please let us know. Tamika, you can come on anytime. You keep saying you want to come and never do. Can everybody hear us well? Okay, thanks, G.
Can you hear us?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
I remember when this song came out.
Mm-hmm.
One and only time you seen all them artists join together on one accord.
And there was self-destruction too. We had them for self-destruction, remember?
Yeah.
I wish the world would understand that we are the world. We are God's children. If we all will understand that. Okay. Welcome to the We Us and Our Show. I'm your host, Michael Phelps from the We Us and Our Show. Group. I can always state that We Us and Ours is an educational group and a solution-based group. We advocating for change in mindsets, change in our current condition, uplifting each other, learning from one another, and bridging gaps with one another, from the hurts from within our families and outside of our families. This is the only way we're going to heal, and this is the only way we're going to be able to deal. So this topic that we really talk about today, we want to illustrate on when we say certain things, they have to have purpose, not just lip service. So I'm going to let my cousin go ahead and read the topic off.
Today's topic is, what does it mean when we say that I'm my brother's and sister's keeper? Today's meaning, brothers and sisters keeper, is often used in the context of emphasizing the shared responsibility we have to each other as members of a society.
Yes. So, fam, you know, when you hear I am my brother and sister's keeper, if we went back to the context where it actually originated from, or where we first heard it from, I ain't gonna say original, we say where we first heard it from was from Cain and Abel situation. It was used in a different context. But as we have got older, it's like it's been deployed differently, which it really has the same meaning, but it took on a different light. If we looking at it from the abstract of what Cain was saying versus what we actually supposed to do, what he was supposed to do with.
Well, Cain posed a question. He asked the question.
Yes.
Am I my brother's keeper? After he had did what he did, murdering his brother, and the Lord was questioning him about where his brother was. Because his blood was crying out from the ground.
Yeah.
So Cain posed the question to the Lord. Am I my brother's keeper?
Let's go into that. That's pretty deep, because you'll think, now, he knew that he slayed his brother.
Yes.
He knew he was jealous of his brother.
Right.
He knew he was envious of his brother.
Right.
He knew that there was some type of pride within himself,
Right.
which caused anger and wrath towards his brother
Mm-hmm.
because of his relationship with God Almighty.
Mm-hmm.
Because God Almighty gave praises to not Abel's gifts that he gave, but how he gave it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the point that I think Cain was missing out on.
Right. It was something that the Lord was trying to get him to understand. It was that he wanted him to see that I'm not a respecter of persons.
Mm-hmm.
I love you like I love Abel.
Yeah.
Just obviously I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
But he said, I love you like I love Abel. He said, look, just like I gave him praise, you can have praise too.
Yeah.
He said, if you do good, and his words were, if you do good, will I not bless you also?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. He said, but if you choose not to do good, the sin is at the door. So those are the things that, when we're talking about being a brother's keeper, then it's more lines of, okay, so the direction we're going now is, okay, so what are we going to decide to do?
Yes.
When it comes to being a brother and sister's keeper? How are we going to choose to be our brother and sister keeper? Are we going to do the right thing by being our brother's keeper? We're going to choose to do the wrong thing, being our brother and sister keeper, or not being our brother's keeper, or brother and sister keeper. In other words, not acknowledging.
So Cain took the low vibration route instead of the high vibration. When I say low vibration, means that he took the evil route.
Yes.
Versus the good route. Instead of saying, okay, I'm gonna follow my brother's example, and because I want to please God as well.
Right.
But he took the lesser vibration, we call it the lower vibration route, because he took the beastly route instead of the higher graphic, like what they call the bird route.
He took the self-preservation
route.
And that's oftentimes where we struggle, is that's what brings about the demise of relationships. When people take that self, and I must stress, self-preservation route.
Okay, I got a comment. Oh man, this stupid thing. I mess up the comment. Man, I tell you. Okay. Stephen Abraham said the brother's keeper mentioned in the scriptures was not in a good way. Cain said that out of strife. Yes. Right. And then Tamika Lynn said, but what made him upset enough to kill him? You just elaborated on that. Can you stress that again?
I elaborated on that. What I explained was that Cain and Abel both brought a sacrifice before the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the Lord was obviously satisfied with Abel's sacrifice. He was not satisfied with Cain's. However, he gave Cain a way out.
Yes,
and the Lord recognized that Cain had an issue, and he said, basically, he told him there's no need for him to be jealous of his brother.
Mm-hmm.
That basically he loved them both.
Yeah.
Basically, he said, if you do well, will I not bless you also? Basically, will I not give you the same thing, the same praise that I gave Abel?
Mm-hmm.
You can have the same thing. I'm not, the Lord was trying to help Cain to understand that he was not a respecter of persons.
Yes.
And so he gave Cain an option. And the option was, if you do well, I will bless you also. Basically, you'll receive the same reward. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I will accept you as well. He said, but if you choose not to do well, and that was the thing, he gave him a choice.
Yes.
If you choose not to do well, then he says sin's at the door, meaning that there would be other consequences that would follow because of his choice.
Yes.
That's the short of it.
And the thing that I get out of that scripture too is that Cain was more angry with God, but he took it out on his brother. Mm-hmm. Since he couldn't do nothing to God, he did it to his brother.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was upset with God, the favoritism that he felt God had over the other.
Mm-hmm.
So that what made Cain furious.
Mm-hmm.
That would move him to a temporary insanity.
Mm-hmm.
after he killed his brother, he still didn't have no remorse. Because when God came back to him and asked him, "Where is thy brother?" That's when the saying came in. What you said, Steve, was correct. That's when it came to pass what Cain said.
Sarcasm.
Sarcasm.
Am I my brother's keeper?
Am I my brother's keeper? Knowing that he had blood on his hand. You know, and try to hide it. We have been when we say that we love one another, because every day we wake up, people wake up to each other. They say, "Hey, I love you." And in the midst of Abel, we take that as like, okay, they love us to death. They say they love us, so we believe them. But soon as something doesn't line up to something because of a disagreement, because I might disagree with something you have done or said, or all of a sudden that love turns to that Cain mentality. I'm gonna have to attack that person now because that person didn't agree or not or not appraising what I'm saying or what I'm doing, and they calling it out, and so they take it personal. So therefore, love goes out the door. But they will sure tell you that, "Oh, I am my brother and sister keeper." But how can that turn so quickly just because I disagree with you?
Well, I believe that I believe that it is a term that is used loosely. Almost like you said, Brother Abraham, is that his name?
Yeah, Steve Abraham.
Okay. I think and I think that's what he was emphasizing, which is true. It is a term that is used loosely. I love you, my brother. I love you, my sister. Okay, but then one would have to define that love. Okay, well, what does that love look like?
Yeah.
When you say, "Well, I love you, my brother. I love you, my sister." Okay, does it look like, okay, I'm not gonna be envious of your wife. I'm not going to be trying to sleep with your wife behind your back. Does it look like that? Or does it look like I am going to try to sleep with your wife behind your back? Or I'm going to try to sleep with your husband behind your back? Or I'm not going to try to sleep with your husband behind your back? Does it look like that? That's where, when you talk about context, when you talk about what the Lord did with Cain, the context comes in where he says, okay, if you do well, why not bless you also? If you choose not to do well, sin lies at the door. So when you talk about a relationship, you're talking about being a brother's keeper versus not being a brother or sister's keeper, even though one may loosely define it as, either way, I'm my brother's keeper, because I say I'm my brother's keeper, like you said, lip service. But when it comes time to actually applying what that truly means, with the love that's supposed to come along with that, then one must question, okay, and one must ask themselves, okay, am I truly my brother or sister's keeper? Am I? Okay. And that will take a self-assessment to determine within yourself a standard of what you mean by being a brother or sister's keeper.
Exactly. And I'm gonna read Tamika. She said, I felt like there was a competition amongst them. And I believe that competition was amongst one. One took it as a competition. I don't think the other one acknowledged the competition, because I think if he would acknowledge that, he would not have been so easily lured to his demise. You understand what I'm saying? So, then she's come. Oh shoot! Damn, why does this thing keep doing that? Then Tamika said, "Sometimes love needs to be explained. I love you because, but who will take the time to be the man or woman to initiate that love?" Then Brother Kitten Keeve and they are Kitten Keeve and Steve watching again. And that's true. That's true, Tamika. We have a lot of times people don't know how to define what love is. It's easy to say with words, with lip service, what you would do, until you actually have to be put into practical state. When you have to practice what you just said, and put it in fruition where you actually have to do it, that's where we have these barriers at. That's where we have these complexes of not understanding languages, because languages are just spoken words until they become actionary. When I say I love somebody, that means that I'm saying it with words, but it has to become an action, and it has to be led by an action for it to be actually perceived and received as an action. How many times have we seen communities or families come together in a family gathering? And when you say family, you automatically think of love. You think everybody loves each other because we're blood. But when they come together, all of a sudden, the spirit of Cain rises up in the family, in someone in the family, which causes a discord, causes disruption in the family unity. But they would just say about 2 hours before the event, "Oh, I love my family." But then soon coming in, they couldn't check some behaviors or some feelings that some deadbeat, I call them, they couldn't check the deadbeat emotions and fickle feelings for the betterment of the family. They just let it go. And then all of a sudden, it ruined the whole night. Because now that you're not having fun, now you're trying to diffuse a situation. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What do you got to say about that?
Well, I guess when I think, again, as we're talking about the context of being a brother or sister's keeper, and you kind of hit on it, jealousies are a part of that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a matter of what you think somebody has that you don't have.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened between Cain and Abel, and that's what she was referring to.
Yeah.
That there was a competition, and like you pointed out, well, yeah, one saw it as a competition, but the other one didn't see it that way. I'm sure. I mean, the scripture doesn't really speak on it, but you don't see where Abel actually saw it as a competition. Never mentions that he saw it as a competition. But what we do know is that Cain had a problem.
Yeah.
With Abel. And so he slew his brother because he had a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So when we think about that, that is what happens in families. In families, there's divisions because there's a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes, and we kind of mentioned, and before we were kind of talking back and forth before the show started, is that sometimes the other person doesn't even know that there's a problem.
Yeah.
Because the other person didn't even tell them that there's a problem.
Yeah.
There's this silent problem. And so you may not necessarily take a knife or whatever weapon was used to kill your brother Abel. However, you assassinate them with your silence.
Mm-hmm.
You assassinate them by ignoring them.
Mm-hmm.
You assassinate them by
gossiping
or leaving them out of your conversation.
Assassinate
You'll go up and
character.
you'll talk to the person next to them, but you won't talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
You're letting it be known in a nonverbal way that you have an issue with him.
Yeah.
So it's almost like it's a type of assassinating your brother or slewing your brother. It's a type of that, even though it's not necessarily physical.
Mm-hmm.
So, and those are the things that we have to truly be mindful of when it comes to addressing these issues. But the real issue is that is it the other person needs to be addressed, or do we need to address ourselves?
We need to address ourselves. And a lot of time hurt people hurts people. We know that. So when people are hurting, and that hurt can stem from not just that little brush of incident they had with that individual family member. It's just that when they came in contact with one another, and that hurt that they have from all the other issues that's going on around them, this is the opportunity for them to lash out, because they can't lash out at the true victim or the true person. Like Cain could not lash out at God, so he lashed out at Abel.
Mm-hmm.
So when people are mad at something, they mad at all the things that's going on. They lost their job, or they ain't making enough money. They got kids. stuff going on, and then they had a little brush incident with a family member or a friend or co-worker, they would lash out on them because they can't truly lash out to really the real person.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but they will say, after it's all done and said, you will catch them in a corner crying, full of tears, and say, "I love my family."
Mm-hmm.
And then you ask family. When you say family, that means there's multiple people. That's not separatism. You don't separate one individual, because you say you love my auntie, but you don't love her son or her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
How can you say you love God but don't love your brother and sister that you see every day?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what God was telling us.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This is the problem we have, and we need to understand these things.
Mm-hmm.
But let me read some more comments. Tamika said, sometimes it's about wanting the love from the person you love, and they refuse to give it to you. And she said most of the time they know. Then she said pride. Then she said ego. Then she said ourselves for sure. Yes. What is would you want to reply to her comments?
Say that one more time. Read it to me one more time. I'm sorry.
She said, Tamika said that she said sometimes it's about wanting love from that person you love, and they refuse to give it to you. Or maybe they gave it to you, but they didn't give it to you in the way that you wanted to be given. Because see, it's about interpretation and expectation. Sometimes people have expectation of what they expect something to be given to them, when it's not interpreted the way they want it to be. So then they get they have a mistranslation of what it is. So it's a domino effect of how things are perceived through the eyes and through the ear gland. Remember, it said through eyes and through ear. And if you see certain things, because you can make up stuff in your head that's not there. Someone can probably walk past you and literally have someone on their mind. They might not even seen you, and you would take it like, oh, you know.
Well, what I get from that is that that's communication. That's a communication gap, is what it is. It's what it's referred to as, a communication gap, meaning that one is, and she's right when she said that. When, like, you made a statement when, someone's in a corner, they're crying and says, well, I love my family. Okay. Well, how do you, interpretation of that statement is, I want to be accepted by my family.
Yes.
See, so when they're saying, I love my family, what they're really saying is, I want to be accepted by my family.
Yes.
So that speaks to Tamika's point.
Or accepted by an individual in the family.
Right. So that speaks to Tamika's point, where, and the thing is that what we all have to understand is this: we will never be able to control the black box of someone else's mind.
Yes.
Okay. You can control yourself, but you cannot control others. So, with that being said, it's more so important that there's this book called Dignity. If you ever get an opportunity to read it, and it kind of addresses this issue that we're talking about right now, and we're talking about Brothers and Sisters Keeper, and that is, you don't allow someone else's lack of response to cause you to act out of character. Exactly. Because when you allow them to cause you to act out of character, now you've allowed them to rob you of your value. So in order to maintain your value, then you do your part, and then it's up to them to do their part, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Because you will drive yourself crazy trying to make them love you, or make them accept you, or even make them see things the way you see things. And see, that's the thing. When we talk about trying to see inside the black box of someone else's mind, meaning you may not value the same things. You know, as we're discussing now, you know, everybody, I'm sure, that's listening or watching or maybe even watch it later on, don't have the same definition of being a brother or sister's keeper.
Yes.
You know, different people have different definitions or different meanings when they say, am I my brother's keeper or I'm my brother's keeper, you know? And so you have to look for you have to come to an agreement as to what the both of you mean when you say, I'm my brother's keeper. Okay. I mean, even in a marriage, that's why they, you know, there's the exchange of vows and all that. There's an agreement where, you know, when you exchange vows, that means you know what the other person is bringing to the table. They know what you bring to the table. And then, you know, so and hopefully you've talked about all these things beforehand. So you already have a pretty good idea that there's agreement on being your mate's keeper.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's an agreement that you're going to commit to.
Yes.
And you're going to be consistent with.
Yes.
And you're going to be able to communicate with.
Yes.
The 3 C's, like I always say, commitment, consistency, and communication. Those 3 C's is a bigger C that towers over that. What's called character. What Cain lacked at that moment was character, because he didn't understand who he was to know who he was. If he knew that he was the God that was already in him, see, the thing that he overlooked is that he thought Cain had more God in him than he did.
Abel. He thought
Abel had more God in him than he did. When they both have the same God. That's why God told him, don't allow this to interfere.
In a monowild way, that's exactly what he was saying.
You know,
don't allow this to interfere with your worship, but don't allow them to interfere with who you are.
Because you got to know who you are. Yeah, greed. It's going to cause you riff and all that, and pride. I mean, your pride going to puff up, your ego going to swell up, and then you're going to become vital to any and everything around you.
Right. And
that's what happens in relationship. Right. A man who loves a woman deeply, he feel like he possesses her, he feel like he owns her, and then when she gets out of line, and instead of him know how to communicate and articulate words and try to find the ways to find peace, he just thinks that violence is a solution to the problem. He feel like, I'm gonna dominate over her now, and that's what's happening in our society. That's what happened with governments. They want to dominate other countries because they feel like this is the way to go. When there's diplomatic ways you can handle situations. You know, people say, "Oh, diplomatic way is soft," so nobody wants to go to diplomatic.
Well, it requires work.
Yes. It
requires communication.
Yes.
It requires commitment. It requires consistency. And oftentimes when we talk about relationships and as we're talking about families, you know, when I think of family reunions and picnics and all those things, that's an opportunity to come together all in one place to communicate.
Yes.
Because you don't get to see each other. The majority, you don't see each other all year long. So when you come together, that's not the time to argue, to fight. That's the time to communicate. Yeah. In other words, you know, when we talked about, remember Cain was selfish. Okay. He was thinking about self. Okay. Well, when it comes to communication, when it comes to being your brother's keeper, when it comes to loving your neighbor as you love yourself, it requires, when it comes to love, so all those things, all those, they're different words, but they all pretty much all mean the same thing. Yeah. In the family. Yeah, in a family, because because of how they're applied.
Yes.
Each one of them, being your brother's keeper, loving somebody, not being selfish,
respect.
Meaning what that requires is that you're other-centered and not self-centered.
Yes.
And so to be other-centered, that's how you love. That's how love is supposed to be applied. That's really what love is supposed to look like. Love is supposed to be applied by being other-centered and not self-centered.
Yes.
So Cain was lacking in character. He was lacking love. Yeah. He was lacking the love for his brother. The reality is that being your brother's keeper, or even for two brothers to come together and say, hey, you got something that I want. Here's an example. When we were kids, okay, when me and you were kids, right? You remember how sometime I come down with money and we go up to Wesley's, and I never forget it. It was like yesterday when you said, you know how some cousins got money, other ones don't. You know, some got candy, others don't. You know, then we got to share it. You know, you can't. I said, this dude think he's trying to manipulate me, but I got it.
Yeah.
You know, it was again, instead of being mad at each other, instead of falling out with each other, right? All we had to do was share.
Yeah.
Okay. If Cain wanted to know what Abel did, all he had to do was ask him, "Hey, you know what? I see you got, you
got God's attention.
Yeah. So how can I do the same thing you did? Okay. That's that brotherly love. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Abel, I believe, it doesn't say, but I believe that Abel, being a proper kind of brother that he would have been, he would have shared that knowledge with Cain, so that Cain could have reaped the same benefits that he had.
Yeah.
And so that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes perfect sense, because you know what I mean, we lack that today.
Yes.
We lack that totally today. Everybody's self-centered. You know, a lot more people is more self-centered. It's all about I, me, and mine. What I can do, what y'all can do, you know, what I need and what I got, what I'm doing.
Right.
Or my kids.
Right.
Or my this, my that.
Right.
You know, this is mine's. You know, that mentality. Scarface. You know, I was writing 3 particles about Scarface, because you know, and the reason why I wrote those 3, I was writing these stories about Scarface, not because I'm glorifying him, but I was letting everybody know. You know, a lot of our brothers and sisters try to emulate this guy to encounter success. And what happened?
To continue.
To encounter what they consider American dream. So they had took the road of selling dope, poisoning the people, and then in the process of that, the money came so fast and so easy, and he started to believe that he's unstoppable, he's invincible, he's above God, he's above everything, and so his ego and his pride and started to intervene. What his true mission statement was: I want to coming out of Cuba on a banana boat. I don't want to live like this.
Right.
And once he got to his success, he wanted everything in the world. He wanted his boss's wife.
Right.
His boss was already trying to school him before he came in.
Right.
He said, "Man, don't." He said, "Money ain't everything."
Right.
He said, "You know, respect is everything."
Right.
And he said, "You respect, you can have all." He said, "Then when you got money and you learn to respect, you'll live a long life."
Right.
Scarface didn't see that. He wanted his position.
Right.
He wanted his woman.
Right.
And then he went behind his back and made a deal with Sosa.
Right.
So all those things was a demise of him.
Right.
And so and the guy, remember, he killed the man that introduced him to the whole thing, because Scarface didn't have the connect. He didn't have the gift of gab to connect with people.
Right.
It was his friend Manny that had the gift of gab.
Right.
But when he spoke out, he said, "Who created this? Me. Who did this? Me." No,
Right.
Manny got you in there. He got you in the door to meet those people. You overlooked that, but you know, and then you got mad at him because he you know, which any man, which is understand. Manny should have did a little bit more diplomatically when he knew he wanted his sister. He should have probably came to him and said, "Hey, you know, I'm thinking about marrying your sister. I don't want to, you know," because some people do take that seriously about their family. You know, so I understood that part, but to kill him without finding out the evidence, getting the evidence, you know, that was another thing. And the reason why I'm using that as a ploy, because it all goes into my brother's keeper too. Manny and Scarface were supposed to be each other's brother's keepers. Manny looked out for him. Manny had his back 100%. Now Manny was a lover boy that he was outside when Scarface was in there, when his boys was getting cut up with things. If Manny wouldn't have been flirting with the woman, he could have been in there, probably saved his buddy quicker. But things do happen. So we can look at stories and learn from them. But that was the story that I learned from when I was thinking about my brother's keeper. No matter what Manny was doing, he still had love for Scarface. I remember the time Scarface called him on the phone. He's like, "Man, where you at? Where you at?" Remember, he got mad at him because he every time he was calling, "I'm calling your phone. You ain't answering." You know, people expectation of you is it can be way beyond measures, and people will expect you to be right there at every beck and call. It doesn't work that way all the time. So that would cause people to have rifts or disbeliefs, or allow someone to come in their ear. Oh, say, I don't know, Manny. I think Manny making side deals somewhere else. You see what I mean? Because he's looking at what he did. I'm not saying that's what he did in the movie, but I'm saying, but that's what comes in. That's that rigor mortis that comes in, that sets in. So we have to really go into self, like you said earlier. We got to check self. We got to check ourselves. And it's if you love thyself, you give to your brother what you want from yourself, and that's the key.
Love your neighbor as you love yourself. That is the key. But oftentimes that's not the case. We live in societies where that is not the case. Whether you're listening to radio, whether it's on Facebook, whether you're watching TikTok, or some other social media, or television, or as a brother used to say, television, which it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's in other words, don't allow those things to educate you out of who you are. See, oftentimes that is a struggle. That is the mistake that we make. Is when we start acting out of character because of who we're around, who we're trying to impress,
or what influences us.
Even when it comes to, as I mentioned earlier, a best friend who tries to sleep with his best friend's wife, or a best friend that tries to sleep with her best friend's husband. You act out of character because you want something that doesn't belong to you, so you're willing to do anything to get it. And being your brother's keeper means that you're always looking out for their best interest, not your best interest.
Yeah.
And they will do the same. They'll look out for your best interest instead of their best interest. So, in other words,
respect.
It's a mutual respect is what it truly means, or what I believe it truly means, or what it implies. And so when you apply that, as you said earlier, not just lip service, but an actual application. When one acts out, when one's in momentum, when one's flowing and being their brother's keeper, then their decisions are motivated by keeping the relationship going.
Yeah.
So they're motivated by doing those things that are going to keep the relationship healthy, instead of doing things that are going to undo the relationship, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And we live in a time period where everybody, rigor mortis has set in so deeply into our DNA. When it comes to words, when we say love, the rigor mortis is going to come in and destroy love, because because people say, well, love means something different to everybody. It does, because what I might consider what love is, but that's not because love means something different. It just means my expectation of what I think love is. What I think that you should give, if I call you, I said, Raymond, you should pick up your phone right away when I call. You see me calling, then that's my expectation. Then when you don't do it, I find a reason to say, well, he don't love me like I love him. We'll find reasons to, and that's that rigor mortis of thinking. But we need a metamorphosis out of that mindset and start to understand that everybody is not, that doesn't mean that people dislike you or not want to be around. You can have brothers and sisters. You grew up in the same home, had the same teaching, same everything, and we all different. If you got a big family, out of all your brothers and sisters, you might not even talk to them every day. You might talk to one more than you talk to the other one, or you might talk to one cousin more than you talk to the other cousin. You might hang out with your mom more than the other ones do. That does not say that the other ones don't love you or the other ones don't care. It just shows you that love is different for everybody. How we interpret what means something to us at that time. Maybe me and you might have more of a close relationship because we think alike. We're on the same path of ideals or how we conduct ourselves or how we communicate. Even though we don't talk every day, we might talk once a year, but when we talk, it feels like we still was talking yesterday. Some people you can't do that with,
right?
Even in your circle, your bloodline circle. That doesn't mean they don't love you. It just means that you just got more of a connection with this person than you do with the other one. That's not a negative thing.
Right.
Like some people have, I just believe that you just don't show it out in the open because it can cause that Cain and Abel rift. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like you might love one kid over the other one. But not say you do. It's just that you have more in common with this one. You see more of yourself in this kid than you do the other one.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll take to that kid, gravitate to that one. Or this kid might be the trouble one. You might feel like, I have to apply more on this child because this child, and that will be coming to the that will come to the prodigal son and the father, with the two sons. One son was here, the other one was there. He took more. The son that was there felt like he was being neglected.
Sibling rivalry.
Yes, you see what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So then look at Esau and Jacob. Mm-hmm. Ishmael and Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been there. So we got to know these stories because these stories are meaningful. That's where they give them to us so we can learn from them.
Right.
Not to take it as a ploy that that we can have an excuse and use it for an excuse or to fit our agenda. No, it's an understanding mechanism that, okay, this is what was happening when those things was going on. Mm-hmm. You might want to take note of this because you don't want that to keep
popping
up and prevailing in your family, and it will cause a destruction in it. So once you start to see his head, you see that evil head looking up out of the hole, chop it off
before it becomes a
generational curse. Mm-hmm. This is what that is for. Let me see. It said, okay, Tamika Lynn said, the problem is we can do that and they won't. And that is why we are so divided. Then she goes, right. Then she goes, it's more so about just supporting one another. Then she says, support equals love, being present and listening to hear and not to speak. Then she said, respecting boundaries. Remember, you always talk about respecting boundaries, and it's really that simple. Mm-hmm. Even by me being present, I am supporting you guys' thoughts and podcasts. And she said, I don't have to, but I want to. Exactly. And support ain't always what we gear up to be. You might came on the podcast, maybe looked and stayed for 2 seconds and then took off. You supported it, and I have to accept that. You don't have to be there the whole time for me to say, oh, she didn't support me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what people do. Mm-hmm. That's the reason. That's because people are looking for a reason to be upset, mm-hmm. to discredit your character or discredit you as a person. That's what people do.
Well, and you're right. And the reason why I say you're right, because I was thinking, the other day I was thinking about, and people say don't judge me. Mm-hmm. And it's like when you think about what it truly means to judge somebody, the conclusion that I came to is that it means that you're judging their intention. Mm-hmm. So their intention may not be what you think it is.
Yeah.
And if you really want to know what their intention is, you should ask them.
Yeah.
Okay. Instead of assume that their intention is what you think it is.
Yeah.
Because and this is why communication is so very important, and this is why these are the kind of things that will keep us from being divided or save breakups in relationships.
Yeah.
If people, and Tamika just said, very, very eloquently put, where she talked about the importance of listening, and not talking.
Yeah.
Because, and that means that when you're listening to somebody, you're listening with the goal of trying to understand where they're coming from. If you're not listening with the goal of trying to understand where they're coming from, then you're going to miss what they mean. And if you miss what they mean, and then you wonder why there's a disconnect, well, that's why there's a disconnect, because you didn't bother to listen without talking to hear what they mean. And that, you know, and and again, that is when I mentioned earlier about when we come together as families, at whatever events or whatever the case may be, or for whatever reason, it becomes imperative or very important that we actually take the time to really talk and listen to each other as we go back and forth. Don't be so quick to want to say what you want to say and not hear what the other person is saying, because you're going to miss something important. So if you listen to what they're saying, that's what keeps the conversation going, because they're listened to, they feel listened to, so they stay in the conversation. You feel listened to, so you stay in the conversation. You have active communication going on, because now you have encoding and decoding taking place, which equals relationship. But when there's encoding but no decoding, and everybody's encoding but nobody's decoding, that's not listening. And if you're not listening, then there's no communicating. If there's no communicating, there's no relationship building. If there's no relationship building, there's no being my brother or sister's keeper. That makes sense.
And Tamika said after she said, I don't have to, but I want to. Then she said, but it feels so good. I guess it feels so good to listen. Then my brother Roosevelt from the side, he said, great platform, bros, kings. You know, it is always a blessing when crowd participation, and then they give us their feedback on what or give us insight, because what y'all just giving us, y'all just gave us some wisdom. So now we able to apply that within our daily lives.
Absolutely.
This is what brothers and sisters keepers are. We feed each other.
Yes.
We feed each other true food, so we all can nurture from. And then within that nurturing process, we grow from. That's what helps the body grow. That's what helps the mind grow. That's what helps the spirit grow. And with all these collaborations with everybody who chose to tune in, what y'all give us helps us grow spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and psychologically, and emotionally. And we're able to expand that for the next podcast, and further on and further on and further on. This is what I say, my brothers and sisters keepers. This is how we do things. We help each other, because without y'all, there is no us. Without us, there ain't no we.
Right.
And without no we, there ain't no ours.
That's right. 100%.
So we all work together in conjunction to make it a we, us, and ours. So this is pretty good. I'm glad this topic came about. I was shocked to see so many people tuning into it.
Yeah, I'm likewise.
But when you first seen the topic, what was the first thing that came to your mind? What was it that you thought about?
Well, my brother's keeper.
Yeah. What did you think about when it comes to our family, or where did it take you to? What journey? I know it probably took you to this book, to the scripture, but how did you see it when it came to us as family members?
Well, I mean, when I first read it, the first thing that entered my mind was responsibility. That's the first word that entered my mind, because it's a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
To be your brother or sister's keeper, because it means that it's something to be internalized, not something just to be verbalized, but internalized. Because when you to verbalize it means you only have knowledge of it, but to internalize it means you have understanding of it. And when you have understanding of it, then that means you know how to apply it. And so when you talk about applying something of such importance, it's you comprehend what it truly means to be a brother or sister's keeper. Then you're like, man, my responsibility is to look out for you.
Yeah.
Your responsibility is to look out for me.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like my responsibility is to love you. Your responsibility is to love me. right?
Yeah.
So when you have a relationship that works, see, like I always like me and Mike, we've been close since we were kids, and I mean for a lot of different reasons. But even it has even into our adulthood, it is something that's continued. Now we disconnected to an extent for a while, but every time we come back together, it was like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And that is because we've always had a mutual respect for one another.
And we never crossed each other's boundaries.
No, it's always been there. Mike has had a different lifestyle from me. I've had a different lifestyle from him, and it sometimes at one point put us on different paths, but at the same time, those paths were never so different that we didn't have respect for one another still.
And I think our path was like a highway. We went in so many different directions, but it ended up to the destination that we needed to go.
Yeah.
We just have to take different routes and see different scenery. So now when we come together and we talk, you talk about the sceneries that you see, and I talk about the sceneries that I've seen.
Exactly.
And so therefore now we can sit down, we can map America out, because we can say, you can tell me from the sceneries that you've seen, I tell you the scene, oh, that's America.
Right. Right.
That's God.
Right. Right.
That's how I look at it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, when I think about you being my brother, you being a keeper of me as your brother, I mean, there's certain things that, like I said, different lifestyles, and there's certain things, if you were into this, you didn't make me part of that.
Yeah.
You kept me out of that.
I sure did.
Okay. If there's certain things, I wouldn't come to you a certain way, but I would call, every holiday, birthday, or whatever. Hey man, just checking in on you. Hey, you good? Everything straight with you? Okay. And sometimes for a while, that's what it was,
Yeah.
because we always stayed connected that way.
Yes. Yeah. And the funny part is that, and there were some that looked at me as they couldn't be around me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But I never brought nothing out of the ordinary around my family, period.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of what they assumed.
Right.
They only can assume without what I was doing or what I wasn't doing.
Right.
They didn't know.
Right.
And they always tell me, and we learned one thing about one of our lit classes was, if you don't know, don't say you know. If you think you know, you should ask so you can know. But if you say you know, then I expect you to know.
Right.
But don't come sit around the table and say you know when you don't know.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's false flagging.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that is blasphemy against someone's namesake.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't know something, don't say you know something.
Right.
You don't know. You got to, like you said, sit down and ask a person.
Right.
I have brothers and sisters that I have to be. I'm an older brother, so there's certain things I can do. I had to do around them, and certain things I didn't do around them,
mm-hmm.
because I still have to be a pillar to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I got kids. I got to be a pillar to them.
Right.
I got little cousins. I got to be a pillar to them.
Right.
So why would I even orchestrate myself in that way where I want them to see me in a different light? Because when I come and speak to them, I want them to see, okay, well, Cousin Mike is a righteous person, even though he might be unrighteous, what I assume I heard, but he's always been righteous around us. He never did nothing or deployed anything or put us in harm's way or put us in a predicament where it's going to cost everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's important.
It is.
And if it wasn't for my grandpa, I would never learn that.
Mm-hmm.
Grandpa taught me that. He said, don't you ever bring stuff where you lay your head at. That was his thing. He's always tell me that.
Mm-hmm.
When you lay your head at, that's your peace.
Mm-hmm.
Never want nothing to come and knocking at your door, coming kicking in your door, coming from the front or the back or through a window.
Mm-hmm.
That's how he brought it to me. So I always kept that in my head that, I wouldn't go out here and do something to someone else. So I know they're going to come and do it. So I wouldn't go to someone else's house and kick in their door. Because, if I do it over there, they're going to come over and do it over here.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was going to be diplomatic in the language of understanding, I got to be diplomatic all the way around. What I want done unto him, which is my brother's keeper, what I want done unto him is what I want done unto myself.
Right.
So I'm not going to violate him to a point where he's going to come and violate me.
Right.
So
if you want your brother to value you, you must value him.
Exactly.
And the way I've always termed that is respect roll both ways.
Exactly.
That's how I've always termed that.
Yep. And that's what it was. And it's Tamika said facts. And we don't think like that in the world today. Everybody's about self. Everybody's trying to get one up on one another. You can't be your brothers and sisters keeper, or say you have love in your heart, and when you're always trying to get over on someone.
Right.
That's not my brother's keeper or my sister's keeper. If you can't, what they say about the cuckoo bird, it never flies right. You know what I mean? A cuckoo bird don't fly right.
Mm-hmm.
If it even flies at all. You know what I mean? So, and remember Scarface said that in the movie. He said, I don't like a cuckoo bird because it doesn't fly right. You know what I mean? So you have to understand that we have to be men of renown, men of morals, men of principles, men of substance. And when you have some type of substance and some type of character about yourself, that's the first thing you want to do is identify yourself as a man of morals, a man of prestige, man of respect, a man of honor.
Man or woman.
Man or woman. It goes both ways.
Respect, honor.
Trust, respect.
Yes.
You should be able to trust them. Until they violate trust, then they have to earn that back. Once you violate somebody's trust, and you can violate someone's trust not even knowing.
Right.
But once you find out, you go back and try to fix that.
Right.
So it's just things that we just have to do as brothers and sisters keepers. And when I use brothers and sisters keepers, I say that as family.
Mm.
I'll say family because all of us is family in some degree. We all the children of God, period, right?
I want to stay away from that subject.
We're supposed to be.
Yeah, we're supposed to be. I'll agree with that.
And some of us act like our father, the devil.
Yes,
but Tanika said, basically, you can't double back to what they heard about you. They will see us for who we are because time will tell. I go through the same thing. My little cousins learn me on their own and form their own opinion of me. I'm glad I let it happen organically. Yes, and true. Yes, indeed. And that's what you have to do. Sometimes you have to, they thought I was the atheist in the family. They thought I didn't believe in God because of the stuff I post or some things that, and a lot of times I always tell everybody, the things that I post don't mean I believe everything I post. I post because I like to hear dialogue. Only way I can learn people is understanding how they think. So sometimes I want to see how do they feel about certain things or what they think about certain things, and it gives me it broadens your horizon on how you can deal with multiple people because now you get to understand that everybody don't think like you do, and you get to actually see it in writing. Once you see things in writing, then you start to really accept people for who they are because then you say, okay, I see where they at. And then in their story, when they write it, they always going to tell you where they came from and the environment that they live in. So then you get to see all that in one paragraph, even though the paragraph they ain't really speaking that much, but you can see it in the paragraph. You can see a self-centered person. You can see an unrighteous person. You can see a righteous person. You can see a conscious person. You can see a person that just got mirror in their mutton but hate in their hearts. And you can see people that really got a lot of love in their heart. You can see that just in writing, just about how they express themselves. And you can if you pay attention to that, now you know how you can deal with people because some of them languages aren't unwritten. They're not written on the wall. So you have to actually fine tune and get to know someone by sitting down with them. You don't get that opportunity all the time. In today's time, social media is on the tool you can get to kind of see people from a wide range of areas, and you're able to see where they think and how they think and where they think and where they got the thinking from. You can hear hurt in a lot of people's writing. You can see it in the writing, but then they would say, oh, then you'll hear them say, oh, I love you, bro. I love you, sis. And you be like, damn, I just heard you just cuss people. You just cussed people out just about 2 seconds ago because they just like what you post. So if you say you loved me and you just got mad at this person that you say you loved yesterday, then that means that it's not even, I don't know when my time is coming around the corner that you're going to hate me because I'm going to disagree with you. You know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying? So you learn a lot, and that's why I said we have to really be understanding of my brothers and sisters keeper. And that meaning was, do unto your brother as you want done unto yourself. That's what your brother's keeper really is.
And as you say that, that means that give them the same respect that you want.
Yes.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that your values are the same. Okay? It's like it's like an example that I'm gonna use is like some people think that when you go buy somebody a gift, well, I'm gonna buy you a gift that I like. That's not doing unto your brother as you would do unto yourself.
Yes.
Okay? Meaning that if you would like somebody to ask you or give you
what you need or
what you
want.
need or what you want or what you might give them a list of things that they can choose from.
Yes.
Okay? So you would extend that same courtesy to somebody else by giving them a list of things that they can choose, or them allowing them to give you a list of things that they can choose, or you can choose from, and then that's loving them as you would love yourself, because you would like to be treated that way, so you're going to treat them that way.
Yeah.
It's like, or another example. If I go to someone's house, if I want somebody to respect the rules of my house, okay, well, when I go to their house, I'm going to do the same.
Yeah.
Whatever their rules may be. Their rules may not be the same rules that I have in my house. Okay, their rules may be slightly different. In my house, it may be okay to wear your shoes, but you can't curse. Okay,
Yes.
but I may go over to their house and I might not be able to wear my shoes, but I might be allowed to curse.
Yeah.
And I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
So I adjust to that where, okay, not get mad because, man, I allow you to wear shoes in my house. Why can't I wear shoes in your house? Now you're not loving them as you would love yourself, because you want them to respect you for who you are, where you are, and you want to do the same to them, respect them for who they are, where they are. That's what it truly means to love somebody as you love yourself.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wish people would grab hold of that, grasp that, and embrace that ideology, because I think that will solve a lot of our national problems in our community. Our community are full of people who don't love, who don't respect themselves, so therefore they can't demand something that they don't have within themselves. A lot of people don't love themselves, so they can't demand love if they don't know what love is for themselves. Ain't no man can make woman happy. A woman got to be happy within herself, and a man got to be happy within himself. And then when they two come together, they complement each other. It ain't that they make each other happy; they complement each other.
Well, and I agree with that. I guess what I would add to that is, when you know who you are, then you're selective about who you choose.
Yes.
When you don't know who you are, it's impossible to be selective about who you choose.
Mm-hmm.
So then you end up with the wrong person because you did not know yourself first, or you did not respect yourself first.
Yes.
If you respected things that you like, the things that you find attractive, character, values, experiences, background, history, all of that. If you embrace all that about yourself, then you go find somebody else who's in agreement with that.
Yes.
Now you're properly yoked.
Yes.
But if you don't know yourself, you don't even know who you are. You don't even know what you like. Today you like that, tomorrow you like that. You're kind of all over the place. Okay, because you have not come to a conclusion within yourself what you really want, or who you really are, or what you truly value. So that's what I understand you saying when they're saying you got to come to that conclusion first.
Yes.
Then you can go and turn around and go choose somebody, and they can choose. Then when you guys sit down and you have a conversation, you have light conversation. Why? Because your values are more aligned.
Exactly.
Not that they're perfect, but they're more aligned.
Yes.
Okay. Then your selection process is more narrowed down the way it should be, instead of all over the place.
Yes.
And just with somebody because she's pretty today, or with somebody because he's handsome. You know, but they're horrible people on the inside.
Or you know, or if not, they don't meet the criteria that you're looking for.
Yeah.
When it comes to responsibilities,
Right.
a lot of times people get in a relationship because they think that everybody had gotten the memo on what the responsibility is when you're in a relationship.
Right.
Everybody has the memo, but everybody don't honor the memo. Even at a job, there's rules and regulations. Even though driving in a car, there's rules and regulations. Everybody understand the rules and regulations, but they don't honor them. If they can find a way to break the law, they're going to break it.
And that's why you got driving privileges suspended.
Yep.
And that's why people get fired from jobs because they don't honor
and lost relationships.
And lost relationships because they don't honor.
Let me. Tamika said. She said, it is that simple, flat out, treat people how you want to be treated. Okay, that was that one. Then she says, I don't agree. Can you tell us what you don't agree on, Tamika? Because I don't know where I know we went first. We kept going, so that's further back. Then it said a gift is something that is I offer. It shouldn't be monetized. Yes, right. Okay, that's what you meant. Okay. It said, if I buy you what you want, will you buy me what I want? Okay. Then she said, cause I may have money then, but you may not have money when it's my turn. So I'm going to feel slighted. Then you watch someone who you gave a $300 gift to and buy someone else something that they fell in love with. Hold on, I had to open it up. And now it's my turn, and now you feel like, oh, I don't owe her nothing. Crazy, shaking my head. Then you say it's all about being fair, honest, and loving. That goes into a lot of that stems into a lot of areas. You know, I would say that, you know, you're 100% correct on how you feel about the situation, but that does stem back into what I will say. It stems into this thing called deadbeat emotions and fickle feelings. And the only reason why I'm saying that, not to say it in a negative way, is because if we give a gift because we expect something back, it changes the narrative of gift giving. It doesn't show the appreciation that someone took the time to do, because like you only did it because you want something back. Even sometimes when you put money in the bank, you're only gonna get what you put in. You ain't gonna get nothing extra.
You might get a tiny bit of interest.
Unless it's sitting there long enough to get interest. Yeah. Most time people they don't let it in. They don't let it stay in there long enough to get interest. Mm-hmm. So therefore, you only get what you got that you put in. Mm-hmm. Now, if you was able to put money in and it can sit at a fundamental time, you're able to draw some interest. But most of the time, in today's time, in our culture, a lot of time it doesn't sit as long as we want it to. So it goes in, it goes back out.
Yeah, and I guess with that I would add this. Like I said, she's correct, and I clearly understand where she's coming from. And I guess what I was, and I'll clarify a little more. What I mean is that it's good to consider the other person.
You should
when you're gift buying. In other words, you know,
or consider that someone did something for you, and give back.
Because really, it's really not about how much you spend. It's the thought. At least with me, it's the thought that counts. You know,
and you got to know people's love language too.
Yeah. So it's like, so what I'm saying is like, if you know this person likes expensive gifts, you don't have to get them a gift. Well, you know, if you can't afford it, you don't have to. You know what? Matter of fact, some people, when you don't know what to give them, the best thing to give them is a gift card. Yeah. And, you know, and if all you have is $10, then give them a $10 gift card. If all you have is $5, give them a $5 gift card. You know, they can go get a cup of coffee or whatever it is they feel like they want to do with it. You know, save it for a rainy day, whatever the case may be. But one should never feel like, and what she was saying is that one should never feel like, kind of like what she said about the show. I do it not because I have to, but because I want to.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with the gift.
Yeah.
You do it because you want to, not because you have to.
Yes.
That's what makes it a gift. That's what doesn't change the narrative.
And I wanted to make sure that everybody who's watching might have caught what you said. Not to say you was incorrect, but I wanted everybody to understand that if you're in a relationship, and sometimes relationships don't equal out the way you pan out the way you want it to. Sometimes you might go buy something for a man can go take a woman out for Valentine's Day, and he spends all this lavish money. Then when his birthday comes, she buys the minimum. And and he might be upset about that, or she'll buy him a big thing on his birthday,
right? And
then when Valentine's Day comes, he come in with a little dinky rose,
right? Well,
so and then let me then I'm gonna let you have it.
Yeah.
She said, "True, but I guess I'm going off the fella saying, buy me what I like. I'm double backing on that. Yes, and a lot of guys do, and like I said, it's different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, and that's why I said, let them give you a list, and you choose on that list from what you want to do, and maybe you can't afford to give them what's on that list. Okay, well, it is what it is, because you could either give them nothing or something. Okay, and that's where a person has to appreciate the fact that you thought about them at all. To give them a gift. Now, to speak to what she's talking about, which does make sense, when you realize that you're in an unbalanced relationship where it becomes a habit. I can see if it's maybe one time, you buy them something big, they come give you some kind of rinky-dink gift or whatever the case may be.
Something they drew,
they drew up, with an old kindergarten crayon and handed it to you. I get that. Now, but if that becomes a habit, okay, then that warrants a conversation. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, the relationship seems imbalanced. Okay. And then after that conversation, if there's still a misunderstanding, well, then you can even it up if you want to. You say, well, since we're on kindergarten level, since we're exchanging crayons, well, I'll give you a crayon to meet your crayon. But I mean, and I'm being funny, but I'm just saying is that there's a way to communicate that and let a person know, hey, I kind of feel like you're not putting as much thought into a gift as I put in for you. I kind of feel like there's an imbalance in the relationship. That's where communication is so very important.
And that's important.
You want to communicate that, and I know most people don't want to communicate things like that because they don't want to feel like they're in their fickle feelings and deadbeat emotions. But that's not being in your fickle feelings and deadbeat emotions. That's effective communication. That's letting a person know exactly where you are, and it gives them an opportunity to fix it. Because see, again, what you don't want to do is and that's part of it. We're still talking about being brothers keeper, sisters keeper, relationship keeper, whatever the case may be. What you don't want is that you don't want to put people in a position to be a mind reader. You want to tell them, you want to inform them, so that once you've informed them, now you can hold them accountable for what they know. Does that make sense?
And let me read her comments. She said, glad he's on the show. And she said, this was good therapy. I'm glad I tapped in. Thank you. We all are fighting demons. Every last one of us. Ain't no one perfect. And the only way for us to become perfect, we have to know who's the perfectionist, and that's our Heavenly Father. He's the one that designed it. He uniquely designed us all, and we all are uniquely designed to be perfect, but we encounter imperfection through sin. So through that sin process, it caused us to have a lot of took on a lot of behaviors that is not of our character, but we embraced them. That's why he was telling Joshua, Jesus was telling a lot of them back in them days. He said, "You're like your father, the devil." He was talking about what they had allowed and what they think they was accepting, and the characteristics that they was displaying. They was displaying devilish characteristics. So we have embraced this through our music, through through the drugs that's going into our systems, because a lot of the drugs that's in the system alters minds and changes behaviors.
Which affects relationships.
Affects relationships with family, all types of relationships. Job, they lose everything on you on drugs. And drugs aren't always the thing that you just substantially take. Drugs can be your pride, it can be your jealousy, it can be your envy, any type of addiction. Sex, all of that can be a drug. And when you taking on all those things, you get in those drugs, it can become the detrimental of you, and it starts to you know, they always say you can drive down the highway and you smell a skunk, but you never see it. That's what your attitude can be, and that's what. And when you on all them drugs and all them type of drugs, your attitude stinks. Yeah, your character stinks. Yeah, and you might not smell it, but everybody else can. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you know, can you elaborate?
I mean, I think you did a good job, actually. I mean, I really like that analogy. I'm still trying to get past that. You smell a skunk, but you can't see it.
Yeah, you can't see it, but you know.
But that's the beauty. That's the beauty of collaboration. You always, and again, I go back to what Tamika said earlier about listening. Mm-hmm. In collaboration, listening is so important.
Yes.
You have to love or care about a person enough to listen to them when they're talking, so that, because the more you listen to them when they're talking, the better you get to know them. Yes. And as you get to know them, then you learn what they like and what they don't like. Mm-hmm. That's again, that's still being that brother or sister's keeper, relationship keeper, or however, you know, it's whether you're in a relationship, a marriage, or whatever, a son or daughter, or whatever the case may be, a job. It can all be applied under the concept of being a brother or sister's keeper, because, you know, even with your job, you know, you know what the expectation is. They're in business for a reason, so therefore you do the things that are going to help further the business. Yeah. You know, you're not going to be showing up late. You know, you're not going to be leaving early. You know, you're going to meet the expectations of the job. You know,
and there's safety rules.
Yeah, safety.
You know, sometimes you might do something that's not safety, and a brother or a sister, they're not going to sit back and be idle and not say anything when they see that you can stick your hand in a machine and get it cut off. Right. Or something. So a real true brother and sister keeper, we're gonna say, hey man, you need to put on your safety gear. Right. Or you need to hit that switch before you go in and try to pull that out of there. That's what brothers and sisters. And it's the same. That applies not just in the work. It applies outside of that. Right. Safety is like when you see a child about to run across the street, and that's your neighbor, and it's the child. As a brother and sister's keeper, you go and save that child from harm's way. Mm-hmm. When we was growing up, that's what happened in our community. Mm-hmm. We couldn't go down the street and cuss. You couldn't even go down the street and cuss without the neighbor come over there, smack you in the mouth, and then they take you and drag you up the street to your parents. Yeah. You know, if they didn't reach your parents, they would take you to your auntie, your uncle, to somebody's house. Somebody they knew, and they would tell them. Mm-hmm. So it was a communal thing. It was a brothers and sisters thing. Mm-hmm. They kept each other. They kept each other's children. They did everything. Everybody worked as a unit. Right. It might have been short lived for some people, because you know, like the elder used to be here. He said he don't remember that. I said, okay, but I remember it happened in our watch. Mm-hmm. And you know, and we come from we in the middle generation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the new kids ain't seeing it, but the elders seen it. Mm-hmm. You know, so I'm just like, you know, it's important for us to understand these things, and you know, it hurts me when I hear our elder tell us that he don't remember that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I remember this like it was yesterday. Mm-hmm. And that mind boggles me, because it was his generation that was schooling us. Yeah. Well, and like I said, you know, at the end of the day, the most important thing is that we don't just
talk about these things, we actually make a determination within ourselves to be about these things.
Yes.
That we actually apply these things in our lives, teach our children so our children can apply it in their lives. Then as our children learn, then our children's children will learn from our children, and they will apply it in their lives. And I mean, and that that in of itself is you're gonna birth better communities. You're gonna bring about. You may not see it in your time, but the times afterward would have an opportunity to see it. But just knowing that you poured into that, when you think about the prophets of the Old Testament, a lot of them didn't get to see what we see today, but they were nonetheless they were a part of it.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with us. Some of these things that we're talking about right now, maybe we won't be able to see the fruits of it. Maybe we will. Maybe we'll see some of it, or whatever the case may be. But the most important thing is that we do all that we can today while we're here, and we take our responsibility seriously.
Yeah.
That is so. When you say you're for community, then be for community and do your part.
Yeah. Yeah. And let me read. She got another comment. She said, yes, that is something I struggle with. Tamika Lynn said, yes, that is something I'm struggle with. I'm a great listener. Then, how you doing, niece? Portia, I see you watching. Then Tamika said, I don't respect anyone who doesn't listen. Listening equals respect.
Yes, it does.
And, what I mean? And a lot of times we don't, even our children don't really listen. They hear us, but they don't listen. They're not listening to what we're saying. They let it go in one ear after the other because they're too busy trying to get back out to what they was doing. But guess what? As a farmer tills the ground, he has to go through a lot of processes before he plants the seed. And once he plants the seed, he has to wait till he sees something starts to grow. Now, some farmers are able to see it grow, and some farmers pass on, and they don't get to see it at all.
Right.
But guess what? What he planted, someone's going to benefit from it.
Exactly.
What we're doing here, we believe in our hearts and in our souls because we are chosen to do what we're doing, because we don't have to be here today every Sunday either. We choose to be here as well. Sometimes we be like, oh man, I don't feel like going. I'm too tired. Or I've been here, I've been doing all this, I've been doing this. But I'm like, I feel like it's my responsibility to give y'all the tools of seeing. Can't make you do, but to see outside of the box, outside of your own peripheral vision, outside of your own environment, and see what you can do hands-on to change what you want to see changes in.
Right.
We can't sit back, keep asking other people to help us change what we need to change within. Change starts with the wheels of integrity. When you have integrity, you want to see some changes because that's in you. You start with self. Then as you working on self, you're shaping, you're surrounding yourself, because you can't do it all by yourself, because you have a vast of people around you. You got neighbors, you got workers, you got children, you got this. So you got hats you got to wear as you working on yourself. It is difficult, but it's not impossible.
Right. Because
God said, I don't put nothing more on you than you can't, what?
You can bear.
You can bear. So that means that we're able to bear all the things that we're going through because God already put it. Now, we add a lot of stuff on our plate from our mishaps, from our want to do things on our own. Yes, we fall short. There's a lot of things I had to suffer and go through. I didn't have to have, but I went through them. Can I say that I had to go through them? No, I didn't have to. But in the essence, now that I'm looking back, hindsight 22, it wasn't that big. I had to go through them because I could have learned other ways. But since I went through them, I had to learn the hard way. And it took I got a lot of visible scars on my body from the things I had to go through. Because, and every day I look at these scars, it's a reminder of what I should have took the advice of my grandpa when he was giving it to me. And sometimes you have to go back and do self-reflection. That's what self-reflection is. You can reflect on all the wounds. So when I look at this wound, I say, oh man, that wound came from me being hard-headed when my grandpa told me not to do that, and I did it anyway. Oh, I got this wound right here. Oh man, that's because I was in an area where I wasn't supposed to be. I got sucker punching, and that little stuff like that. That's a wound that I'm always dealing with every day. Every day I wake up, I think about I get sucker punched. I be like, man, every day I have to wake up and ask myself, man, if I was 10 years, 15 years ago, what that had happened. And that's where your ego get in, your pride get in the way. 10 or 15 years ago, that wouldn't even happen. You know what I mean? And that would make you, and you have to check yourself, because that would make you run back out there trying to prove to that little person that's still in you to think that you're still young when you're really not. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's what costs a lot of people their demise, because they feel like they have to prove something, because they feel like I'm still that young man. No, you're not.
Right.
We ain't that young man no more. We ain't that person anymore.
Right.
He caught you at the best time for himself. That wasn't for you. It was for him.
Right.
And sometimes you gotta acknowledge that. If that wasn't for you, that was for him. That was a blessing for him, not for me. So that's why we gotta learn these things. These are the stories. That's why we're here teaching y'all, because we gotta learn from all these things. And love it covers a multitude, a lot of sins. And if you love God with all your heart and all your soul, you're gonna end up loving your brother, even though he wronged you. Because you don't have no choice. Because I can't say I love God and then don't love him. So I ask myself constantly, every day. I wrestle. I tell you this all the time. I wrestle with that every day. Every day I wake up, I'll be like, man, I let this, you know what I mean? And I'll be like, I have to shake my head and say, nope. That wasn't for me. That was for him. Every day I have to think that way. I lie you not. Every day. And it hurts. You see the cheetah, I look like a cheetah. You see the stains going down my face. But anyway, that's just things that we have to tell ourselves, and we have to understand. Sometimes we go through a lot of things, and the torment is brought up on ourselves, because we can be in places that we ain't supposed to be. We can be doing things we ain't supposed to be doing. We can accept things that we ain't supposed to accept. Those are the things that put us in harm's way. Yeah. And if our brothers is our brother's keeper, they're going to counsel that. You always used to tell me, man, Mike, you need to stop getting out there fighting. You need to letting people get in your ear, and you be the one they lure you out there, and then you will get out there and fight, and you all by yourself. And you're fighting 10, 30 dudes, But I had to learn on my own. And there was times you had to walk away, because you said, man, I can't keep telling you don't want to listen. So God sends people, put them in your way for a reason. He tells you certain things. You don't get it right away, but eventually you would get it. You're going to get it. And guess what? Hopefully you live long enough. You live to tell the story. Right. Everybody don't get a chance to live to tell the story. Nope. I'm just blessed that I'm here. I live to sit to be able to tell the story. That's the blessing right there. So as we do our final remarks, our final thoughts, what is yours, brother? What is yours, cuz?
For change to take place, change must start with us, not with the other. It must start with us.
Mm. Well, can you elaborate on brother's keeper on the way out the door?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. As far as being a brother's keeper, again, it's internalizing that responsibility that you have. Again, you can't do anything about, we reemphasize, you can't do anything about the black box of someone else's mind, but you are in control of yourself. Yeah. And regardless of whatever it is that you experience or whatever it is that you go through, those things don't have to control you. It's all in how you choose to respond to the things that happen. Things are going to happen, but your response is the most important part of the things that happen. So when you internalize your responsibility of being your brother or sister's keeper, then you are other-centered and not self-centered.
Yes, exactly. I acknowledge my brother Jarvell Williams and my brother Robert Brim, both from down south brothers, Mississippi's. Um, Man, I love y'all guys, man. I love all of us, man. I love all y'all, man. We just thank y'all for helping me grow. Every last one of y'all help me grow every day. Every time I have a conversation with y'all on the phone, every time y'all even if you don't even saying that, you just pop up on my feed when you see me on the post. You just gave me something, and you just taught me a valuable lesson. Because sometimes I'll be wanting to quit. Sometimes I don't feel like I'm reaching anybody. Sometimes I just feel like, hey, nothing is being accomplished. And just to see my brothers and sisters come on, just pop up and look at the live stream, that gives me motivation to keep going. Sometimes sometimes you need that. We don't get enough of that in our community. We don't support each other enough in our community. And when we talk about brothers and sisters keeper, support is one of the greatest gifts you can give as a support for a brother and sister. Mm-hmm. It don't have to always be monetary. Just to support, just to tap in and support. I always say, remember that we should be supporting each other. If it's like opposed, you see guys who giving out some real stuff, share their stuff to share to others, because one person shared, he got all the people on his post. He got all these people on his boat, and y'all sharing it. That's if he got 10,000, he got 10,000, 20,000 people that's being reached. That's how we support each other too. We don't all got to ask for money. We ain't got to always do that. We support each other by sharing. Sharing is caring. And I just want to say that's what we say when we say, "Oh, our brother's keeper and sister's keeper." We do what we're supposed to do out of a selfish mentality and be selfless, and understand that it takes us all as a collective to do the impossible for the possible, for the ungrateful, because we're dealing with ungrateful people. Believe that. But we still got to keep doing what we do, and we got to still show love to them. We got some hours. Much love and respect.
Well,